Welcome back, traders and investors. We have Nic Chahine creating income with option spreads. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, guys. How are you?
We're doing good. We were talking about earlier in the show here. Apple is approaching its record date on June 2nd for the 7-for-1 split, and I just tried to be a nice guy and point out that potentially sometimes after splits it's been temporary tops in a stock or an issue, and I just got all kinds of hate mail. What's your take on Apple now? What's your take ahead of the split and longer term?
Well, I would be with you on the split thing. Sometimes it gets interest in it, and then it fizzles out. You also mentioned Mastercard earlier on the show when it did that. For me, it's a coin flip whether it's going to retrace from there or not. But I think the more interesting point about your article is that you got haters. For a while, I used to get bombarded if I mentioned on Twitter sphere anything bad about Apple, even if it wasn't bad, if it sounded bad. They would just bombard me with, the trolls come out and they hate on you right away. And then nothing for a long time. And now they're starting to come back, the Apple lovers. So that might be a bullish sign right there. But for this week, the only change I've seen in Apple in the open interest is that the 600 wall is crumbled and now it's more of an area. So as far as open interest is concerned, there's no longer that 600 wall that I was talking about for a while. It was there for a long time. So now the 600 line is still a little bit more resistance, but it's pretty much flat as far as bulls and bears are concerned. So now the 605 is peaking to be the stronger wall, but then you have the real resistance at 610. So they are trying to bust it out, but I still would sell credit cost spreads in that, meaning I would short the pop with a little bit of room. So I
Where
wouldn't do.
what strike? So above 610 you'd be looking at,
Yeah,
or
anywhere above 610 for small premium, I wouldn't be aggressive, and I'll tell you why. Because the last 2 days it traded with unusual relative strength, and I don't know where that's coming from. So either somebody knows something or we have some real optimism building in the stock. So either case, I don't want to be standing too close to the line.
we got to get in ahead of the split so you get 7 more shares, right? 7-for-1. And you make 7 times your money if you do that. Isn't that what the way it works?
Yeah, but they've known about it. I don't know. I don't know if that's it. But regardless, I don't want to be standing close to it. I had a couple of friends that were short it, and they said, "Should I move?" And I said, "Well, move to somewhere you're more comfortable, or at least sell some credit put spread to benefit on the bottom. This will give you some more conviction in your stance. So it just gives you more time to unwind your short trade without much damage." So, I'm almost tempted to walk away from trading this one for until it splits because I don't want to get caught up in the junk of moving because of the split. That's just there's no fundamentals. You know me, I'm a fundamental kind of guy, even though I look at the open interest to see whether my fundamental stance has legs or not. So, maybe it's not too crazy to step away from it unless you want to do it in Lotto. If you really believe that they're going to build it into the split, buy some cost spreads and try to benefit on the swing up there. Or if you believe that they're going to sell it off, but then build some put spreads on this strength. They're cheap, so
What
that might
about
be a.
the fundamentals? I mean, is there anything you don't see much? I mean, the reason I thought that it might have just been getting juiced now is they came out with like that superfecta of good news, the good earnings, the buyback, the increased dividend, and I don't know if I said the split already, but a lot of good things. Isn't it hard to replicate that kind of news?
Well, Apple is, in my opinion, the premier company. When everybody was making fun of it, I'm saying every company on the globe would love to be it for a minute. They rag on their shrinking margins. Are you kidding me? I mean, they still print money, and they have a lifespan that's going to go for a long time before it actually breaks down and fizzles if nothing new happens between now and then, and they just keep regurgitating iPhones. But fundamentally, it's a strong company with excellent leadership, regardless of what you think of the guy on top. The whole company is excellent. So I can't imagine they're going to mess this beast up long term. So long term, I'm a believer in a company like Apple. I've written an article before, which they made me change the title because it wasn't, it didn't line up with Benzinga. But it takes a special kind of idiot to mess it up. That was kind of like the title, and it's an excellent company. Now, I didn't see anything fundamentally earth-shattering that they're doing. Now, this Beats deal kind of has me thrown for a loop. Do they know something we don't know about what Beats has lined up for the future that they're trying to buy into? I just don't see it. I need somebody to explain it to me, which makes it not a slam dunk. Oh yeah, I see their direction with this one. But I don't know. I mean, my son loves the Beats headphones, would love to own one, but I just don't see how many people can spend $150 for a pair of
I think they're
headphones.
300, aren't they? Some of them.
There you
Some
go.
of them are as much as $300. Because my sister-in-law there was just saying that she bought one off of Groupon, got a deal on it for $185. So
Oh my gosh! Okay.
That's the cheap version. It's crazy.
Okay, well maybe that's how they fix their margins. I don't know how much.
You just gotta sell a few of those things and you make a lot of money.
Well, maybe we just found out why they're buying Beats. They want to increase their margin because that they sell enough of those bad boys. That their margins, the percentage suddenly gets up there, competes. Anyway, but I'm looking at Apple. If you look up a chart, if you pull up a 2-year chart of Apple, and I don't know if I said this last time or not, and you see where it broke down from, and if you consider that run to 700 it was wrong, and so you take out that triangle peak. I think that now starting to sound familiar. I may have said it to you guys before. Yeah. But anyway, so this is about where it crumbled last time. If you erase that super peak to 700, so now is the decision: are we going to run up from there? Are we going to break down, or just meander around here? So I'm not long term. I don't have any long term plays on Apple from here. And if I do, I don't know if I'll be bullish as far as price. From too bullish from here. I won't expect the 700 levels again. I mean, that's going to take a catalyst. I don't know about you guys, but I just don't see how the bears are not going to come out of the woodwork saying, "Oh my gosh, we're back to 700 now," because that's the number that everybody uses when it says, "Oh, Apple ran to a crazy number like 700." Well, we're inching up there, so we're going to need a reason to keep it up there. So I don't have that reason yet.
Okay.
Bob AM is saying iPhone 6, Nick. That's your reason. iPhone 6.
Yeah, iPhone 6. And whenever they had iPhones, I went out a couple years ago and I bought the Samsung Note, the 5.3 inch, whatever it was. That was the biggest phone on the market. And everybody made fun of me. What are you carrying? A tablet in your pocket? And I said, everybody's going to have this size phone in a very short period of time. And look at them. Everybody now is carrying a giant phone. Now my phone is a midget compared to everything else out there. And so we're migrating to bigger phones, yet Apple's still stuck with this tiny little screen. When my kid is looking, he's got an iPhone. When he's looking at his phone, he's like, how do you see anything on this screen? And we're not all young. If we have a lot of older people, they're going to all move up from small screens. So yeah, they're going to have to make the iPhone a lot bigger. But I still need fundamentally some stuff to see from Apple and for me to buy into a lot higher prices than here.
Okay, have you been following Google much? I mean, it's since the
Yes.
When I look at this, I always I look at Goog and then I gotta look at Google and then I add
It's annoying.
I add the two prices together.
I don't look at Goog. I don't look at Goog anymore just because the charts are not there. If you look at Google,
right, the long-term charts are there.
Right, that gives you this sentiment on Google. My take on Google is, first of all, I use all of their products. I'm a PC guy. I'm not an Apple guy. I'm an engineer. Most engineers are not Apple guys just because they like to tweak their machines, and it's a lot easier done on the PC side than the Apple side. So that by default you migrate to Google stuff. So Google, in my opinion, was treated in the last 3-4 weeks as a momentum stock. I mean, I remember there was one day it was down 4% with the Momos for no reason. I mean, what on earth made Google 4% cheaper price-wise in one day? It was crazy. So I would take a long shot on Google on weaknesses. And now the last couple of days, yesterday it had an incredibly strong day, very, very exciting from a bullish stand on the stock. So here's the thing I wanted to mention today. If people say, uh, sell in May and go away, I'm very tempted to do that. But instead of just selling, I'm going to sell premium in May and go away. So if you sell premium about 20% on Google from here and say Priceline and all the big guys and even the indices, about 20% lower than here, and you sell 20% higher than here. So you basically do a strangle that's a plus or minus 20% and sell risk and go away for the rest of the year. You'll have a 40% return at the end of the year with very little sweat because the levels were extreme at the lows and there's no catalyst to spring us forward. I mean, it's either we don't wind down QE or we do. And you don't have to sweat much in between and not overtrade. So Google, to answer your question, I'm positive on it. Excellent management. They have their fingers in a whole bunch of stuff, but they're not paying zillions for it. They're spending some money on it. People make fun of the Google Glass, but it's going to start everybody going in that direction, thinking outside of the box. And we're going to end up with something out of all of this effort that we will be using everywhere, every day.
You think so? You think you don't
Yeah.
you think price prohibitive? I mean, those things are going to be pretty expensive.
But, it's only $1,000
Oh
for
yeah.
something. It's but
Only
but it's,
$1,000. Only.
but if you think about it, when flat screen TVs came out, they were 50. So this does more than a TV, and as far as potential, this is something new that nobody's done. I expected them to be a lot more. I'm not buying one. It's crazy to buy it for $1,000. But if they hone it down to where it actually does something useful for us, like say we're driving and it's giving us our navigation and phones and everything, I'd put a pair in my car. If it saves me from having to get my hands off the wheel and figure out how, if my headset is charged for me to put it in my ear and push and all that anxiety, I'd put one in my car. Even if they make them maybe some sort of a driving aid with shades and whatever. My point is they have potential that maybe we haven't seen yet, and it's going in directions we haven't gone yet, and it might we might come out with something. And $1,000, yes, it's a lot of money, but not for something that's this new. I get the same reaction from the 3D printers. They're also about $1,500 or so. So I hear.
Some are more. Some are getting to the hundreds of thousands, the commercial ones. But yeah, the little small
but
ones.
for what they do, that's pretty incredibly cheap, in my opinion, because those are going to end up in our houses. I bet you anything we're going to have one like a microwave, because you can imagine how many uses you would have for it every week. Oh shoot, I broke this. Let me download the template and print it.
You know what? That's a great call, actually, too. Like on little things like, oh, I broke this little nut here off of this.
Yeah.
It's a rare nut, and I can just print that off in the next 10 minutes here, and then I'll have another one. I don't have to go up to to the hardware store here. I can just print it off my 3D printer. That's interesting.
I can just see manufacturers selling the templates for parts as opposed to selling.
Yeah,
I can just see it. Double click here, $2 for this template, printed at home. I think that's why I like Google, because they're just completely out there, and they're doing it reasonably. I mean, they're not spending bazillions of dollars on something we don't know, or on something that we think is like, oh, this is ridiculous. Yeah, this is ridiculous, but they spent this week. It seems like every day I see a headline about Google buying somebody. And they're making money. They're making money. They have a cash cow that allows them to do that. When you have a cash cow, I don't know if you remember the quadrant. I forgot what it's called.
Cash cow and star. Isn't
right,
BCG
exactly.
matrix? Is the BCG matrix?
Yeah. That's it.
Man, you guys are nerds, man. You guys, Jesus Murphy.
So you got the cash cow feeding the promise of the future. So you throw all kinds of stuff at the wall at the expense of the cash cow without hurting your margins, and then boom, out of nowhere comes out this new crazy way of making money that nobody else has done before. Pretty exciting. I like Google, and technically it's repairing itself. I've been saying to the members for the last 3 weeks, all I want from Google is to sever its trade from the momentums. It is not a momentum stock, and it traded like such. And same deal with Priceline, but it's hopeless for Priceline because Priceline does make money, yet it trades like a momentum, and it's $1,000 stock. That's crazy. So it. But for Google, it's severing from the momentum, and I like it because, and I'm waiting for the next sell-off. If it holds and trades like Apple, as opposed to more like momentum stocks, then I would get confirmation that indeed it severed itself, and then I would take some credit put spreads on drawbacks. Until then, I'm cautious with them. I've done a couple, but I go in and out, go in and out. I'm not overstaying my welcome in any profitable trade.
Okay, let's move on to Yahoo here, and the stock had good earnings, and then found a wall at 37. It's really come off hard. That finding support here at the $33 level, kind of where it was before the old gap up from earnings. It has the old Alibaba IPO. I know this is a lower price stock. Not sure if it's on your
No,
watch list.
I do.
You
Yeah, I
do?
look at it.
Okay, well, give us your take on Yahoo.
I've as much as I like Google, I don't like Yahoo as a company. I don't know why.
Okay.
It's just a feeling I get. And then
Because they're
Marissa
competing with Google. That doesn't help either.
I don't think they are, but I think they're in different leagues, even though they're both kind of, search. But
Yeah.
is Yahoo still search? I don't think so. They say Yahoo
It's
is
kind of reinvented itself. It's
Yeah.
trying to
It-
reinvent itself.
Every time I get spam from my family members or friends where it says their account has been hacked, it seems to be a Yahoo account. I rarely get it from a Google account, from a Gmail account. So maybe they're ubiquitous enough that they are an easier target. I'm not sure, but technically the stock is back to an important level. You mentioned the 32s. Well, that's the level where they plateaued the last time. Last 3 runs ago, so now it's back to it, and it's making lower highs, and it's bumping up against the same floor. So how many times are the question is here? Are the are the bears tired of selling it, or are the bulls eager to buy it? So usually when you're coming down from lower highs, bumping at the same level, eventually you break through to the downside. But here it's almost a coin flip, and I think Marissa, when she first came aboard, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, she's going to fix this company, flipping." I mean, I, my biggest is everybody's resting in the money they're going to get from Alibaba. But what about the company itself? Is it viable? Does it have anything exciting going forward? I don't know. I don't see anything. So trade wise, I would play if I was bullish, I would play the bounce here off of these levels because they're trying to break it. And if you're bullish and you think they're going to hold the line, then they're going to jump up from here. And I would buy some call spreads. But if I was bearish, I don't know if I would sell some credit call spreads because that would create risk. I would maybe do the opposite and buy some put spreads, saying it's going to break down, and if it does, it's going to slide down to the 30s. That's the 230 or close to 30 is what I mean, not the 30s. Already in the 30s. So technically, it's a coin flip, but with a downward bias, in my opinion. So if I was banking on it, I'd bank on the downside personally.
What do you think about when just the whole earnings thing? When you get a pop off earnings like that, and then it gives you all back. I mean, you could also look at it as like another opportunity to enter the stock where it was before those earnings. So, how do you approach that? Is that kind of more to your negative? Yeah.
For Yahoo in particular, it's been not just earnings, it's earnings and Alibaba this, Alibaba that. So if you look at the chart, you see giant candles, gap ups, gap downs, and if the 3 red candles in a row, and then a couple of green candles, all giant, and then one giant candle brings it back down, and then boom, gap up on the earnings, and then giving it all back the next 3 days, and then another 3 candles regaining it all in the next 3 days, and then gapping down, and then giving it all back, and now here we are back to where we were. So that's why I say it's a coin flip, and it's not looking good. Okay. If it was looking good, it'd be going the other way around, upwards. But we're either sliding down or sideways. So if you take out the last, when all the markets went into a tizzy, if you take that out, then the action in Yahoo has been choppy. Giant candles down and with exactly opposing giant candles up, but all trending downwards. And now it's coming to a head around this area. You can draw a very thick a box around that area, 32 to 32.75, maybe 33, and that's the range where the fight is. And if it loses that fight on the bottom, it's going to come to 30, I think.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
Speaking of
Go ahead,
the fight there, Nick, we've had this battle between the bulls and the bears here going on, obviously in the S&P futures. 1860s seem to find the buy the dippers, and the high 1890s seems to find the sell the rippers. Where do you think we're kind of right in the middle here right now? Which way are you leaning, or are you just looking at this market to continue to kind of meander in this trading range?
Well, the SPX, I picture I picture it being a person looking around where everybody else is moving up and down, and it's going, what's going on? Because it's like stuck in this range, and and it's going nowhere. You got the Nasdaq ripping up and down, you got the RUT ripping up, and the small caps ripping up and down, and the SPX just standing around looking, what's going on? Am I missing something? So yeah, they're meandering, and the 1900 wall is still there. Anything above 1900, it is still the high point of interest this week, and everything above it is resistance. As a matter of fact, the resistance starts at 1890, but for some reason we have a lot of puts at 1900, but not too many, but more than I anticipate, kind of like stuck out there on an island. So I think the 1890s and above is definitely resistance, and the 1900 still a pretty formidable wall. But the one thing that changed this week from the last couple of weeks is the 1850 used to be clear defense, and now there's no clear line of defense. So it's kind of squishy below that. So that would worry me a little bit. And especially that we're coming into the elections in Ukraine and nobody's talking about it. Nothing. So I don't know how that's going to shake out.
We got one low price one for you here. AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, Ace in the chat room. I don't know if this is on your radar at all. To me, this 409, 410 level is just sticking out here like a sore thumb. Not too sure. Let's see, you had a high of 410 yesterday. You hit 409 a few sessions ago there, Ace. So you break above there. You're holding up here. You could get up into the 424 area. You got any take on this low price issue?
I don't look at it, but I can give you the technical
quick
version of it. If I extend it to 2 years, anytime I'm not sure about the 1 year, let me see what the 1 year looks like. Whoa, violent stock for such a tiny dollar amount. So I step out to 2 years just to get a little more clarity. Yeah. If I step out to 2 years, that's the level from where it really broke down back on middle of August of 2012. So it had a huge slide down before that to this level, held it for a little bit, and then continued its way down. So it's kind of like middle of the range of this long slide it had between May of 2012 and the low that it set somewhere around November. That's the midpoint. So it seems like bulls and bears decided, okay, let's get back to the middle and decide what we're going to do. Short term, I'm not sure what it's going to do. Let me zoom back in on the one. It seems like it's putting in higher lows. That's pretty good. So it wants to. So the opposite of the other situation where we're talking, you're going from lower highs, knocking on a floorboard. The floorboard is likely to break. This is they're knocking at the roof and from higher lows. So they're building steam. So it has a chance of breaking that 410 level up. How far up? I don't know. Every time they broke it, they peak a couple of days later and then give it right all back.
Yeah, it sure didn't know that. Okay, we've had Nic Chahine on here, creating income with option spread. Thanks a lot, Nick. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll talk to you next week.
Okay, thank you.